Insecure all day. Hello everybody, welcome back to Rangers Journal. I'm your host for tonight, Scott Mackay. I've not been here for about a week and a half, so it's good to see everybody again and be on the podcast. I think I was on a members video on Wednesday, but I think that's been it. I needed a wee bit of time off, but now I'm back and I'm refreshed and I'm kind of ready to rock. So, joined tonight by Dave and the channel owner Kai Watson. Dave, how you doing, pal?
Aye, no bad, no bad. I think I'm the other way, mate. I think folk will be sick of the sight of me by now, but here we are.
No, your hard work's appreciated, mate. It really is. Kai, how you getting on, pal?
Not too bad, mate. For me, it's the third time on in 2 days, so maybe not quite at Dave's level, but slowly working my way towards it.
I might need to check your temperature, mate. Right, so the idea of this podcast tonight is to basically discuss the Rangers players that were away in international duty, discuss how they played, and then how that kind of benefits Rangers. That's the kind of idea behind this podcast. We had a podcast on Cyril Dessers' Enigma last night. Please go and check that out. And tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we've got a match preview for Rangers versus Dundee United. As I say, that's live at 2. We also had the Rangers news today. We've got members channel videos. There's just been content flying at our ears. We're constantly on it just now. Dave, I'm going to come to you. What's your kind of thoughts on international football?
So I think it's got a place, mate. I think probably the frustration for me and a lot of fans is when you get that kind of stop-start through a season to accommodate these international breaks. We all love something like the World Cup or the Euros in the summer. I guess, needs must. And I think it's still quite an honour for players to go off and represent their country. But at the same time, the Rangers fan in me just says, for God's sake, can we get the real football back?
Right. I know I was really, really passionate about Scotland when I was younger, but I just kind of fell away from it the older I've got.
Aye.
Guy, what's your feelings on international football?
I think the two best things about the international break is the first one being it's over, and the second one being that we came through with, I think, just a knock for McCausland. But I kind of, like Dave said, it does have its place, but I think you have your transfer deadline day, you get all your players in, you have one game then. Like, I don't think Bayrami had been obviously at training until yesterday after having signed like 2 weeks ago, essentially, because he obviously had to go away with international duty, which is a good thing for the player and potentially the club down the line, but must be annoying for club managers, because you're probably just sitting there with the fear when they're playing that they're going to get injured or something's going to happen. And there's another one in a few weeks as well. There's one in October. I think you could surely, for the start of the season, maybe keep it in October, but play those 4 games over a couple of weeks instead of having a September one, an October one. Like, I do agree with Dave that is a place for it. I just think they need to kind of plan it better. I think having one game after a deadline day in an international break's a bit of a joke this early into the season. So, not the biggest fan. Same with you, Scott. I used to be quite passionate about Scotland. I'll still support them in the big tournaments, but like the games were on last week, I was just a bit like, eh.
Aye, I know, mate. I know, I was the exact same. I really can't get motivated for it at all. Even when I always says I'd wanted to go and see Scotland at a Euros or a World Cup, it was kind of something that was on my bucket list. But now I'm just like, I'd rather spend my money going watching Rangers away in Europe rather than saving up to get away with Tartan Army for a couple of weeks and turn into a bit of a piss head, because that's all it would be. That's all it would be for him for that time away. But anyway, so first player brings us on to is our new signing, NEDIM BAJRAMI. Dave, I'm going to come to you first because you says you had watched him. What was your thoughts on him?
I thought it was really interesting. He definitely looks like he's got a touch of class about him. If I'm being honest, there was a few passes that he was pinging about, very accurate. I think probably the biggest takeaway for me, and I'll be interested to see how this adapts to his life at Rangers. Certainly when he was playing for them, he was really, really fluid. And that was in probably both dimensions. So he was swapping around the front three. He started that Ukraine game on the left, and he was supposedly in the Albania Georgia game in the number 10 role, but again, he was moving about a lot. But he actually drifted right across that three. The other thing, though, is he seems to love playing in between the defence and the midfield. I was noticing as well, he's really good at kind of seeking out those little spaces, that wee few yards to receive a pass and then just play it straight away. There wasn't much any hesitation about him. I don't remember watching him do any kind of crazy mad dribbles like, a Messi would, but he was really good at taking the ball in, getting it distributed again. And I think for me, that'll be interesting to see with that kind of fluidity that he showed in those games, given that we know Clement's quite a structure man. I'll be interested to see how he kind of adapts that for when he's playing in the Rangers team.
Aye, I know, mate. I know it'll be interesting. Kai, see, looking at getting back to the Celtic game, I know it's been touched upon by everybody in their grannies, but in terms of a structure of a team, can you see this? Did you see anything for these two matches that makes you think that this player could answer some of the structural problems we seem to have?
I think looking at the kind of performance here, I don't think, as much as I wanted Diamandi to be the 10, I think the Celtic game kind of shows he's maybe better playing deeper when he can get on the ball. I think Bayrami's going to take kind of those positions where, like Dave says, he'll drop deep, but he'll drive forward with the ball. I think him and Diamandi's going to be really interesting, because I do think Diamandi suffers from, well, a bit anyway, from playing with players that aren't on the same wavelength or don't have that kind of intelligence to know where to be. But I don't think that's going to be an issue with Bayrami. Also, think he's, like you said, he's always keen to get the ball, but it's difficult when he's one of the main men at Albania. And I'm not saying he's not going to be a main man in this Rangers team, but we don't know what his position is. We obviously assume it's going to be a 10. He's come in and said he wants, or his favourite position is the 10. But I think the most interesting thing from Dave kind of talking about him moving into those areas is you look at the heat map from the Georgia game where he played as a 10, obviously supposed to be the central player behind the striker, and you barely see any of the kind of heat spots in the middle. They're mostly kind of to the side. That shows his kind of ability to link up the play and always be that player that's available. He's not just going to stand in the middle and be stagnant. He's going to move about. You see how far he kind of drifts off to the right, comes out to the left, which is where he's played as well. So I think he's going to bring not so much a versatility, but an ability to be anywhere on the pitch and be able to take the ball and be able to drive us forward, which I don't think we had with Diamandi in the Celtic game, and I don't think we've had with Tom Lawrence in that position all season.
Dave, did you see anything for your matches that makes you think that he's going to be able to create better chances for Cyril Dessers or whoever's playing up top?
Aye, so, I mean, as I said, some of his passes were very accurate. There was some kind of lob passes out to the wings, but there was those kind of threading the needle passes in the centre as well. I think the thing is, I mean, yes, I reckon he'll definitely create chances for Dessers. I guess Dessers' problem isn't really creating chances for us. It's kind of burying them, and unfortunately, nobody can really help him with that. But yeah, I think as far as, whichever striker it is, whether it's Dessers or Igamani, I think he'll certainly be creating for them. There was some very nice, high quality kind of passes that were a bit shorter into their striker. Trying to remember his name now. The boy that played for Inter and Barca, and absolutely baffled me how he did that, to be fair. But yeah, he was certainly picking him out through the game.
Guys, he looking at him heat maps there, especially the Georgia game. He says he started as a 10. Now, was Todd Cantwell not digged up by Philippe Clement for doing exactly what Bajrami's done in these kind of heat maps? Like, does that kind of worry you? Do you think he's going to need some more tactical awareness before he gets a game?
I think it all depends on the situation in the game. Like, I think the Cantwell thing's not specifically that he does it all the time. I think he was doing it in a game where he was told not to do it. So I think it all comes down to if Clement's saying, like, I need you to be in the middle for that game, then if he's doing his usual drifting about, then it's where it becomes an issue. But I think the Cantwell thing was he was asked to do it in that specific game, which was what, Limassol, I think, the one he got hooked off. So I think he was asked to kind of be that central player there. I think Bayrami's capable of doing it, but like I say, he's that kind of main man, main creative force for Albania, so he's given that free role. But I do think, given his ability to play deeper, he can play on the left as well. And it's obviously a bit more defensive in Italy, and that Sassuolo side really weren't an attacking force. They were, again, not obviously a defensive force as well because they got relegated, but more of a defensive side. So I think due to that and due to having to play with your backs against the wall, you do kind of gain that structure. And as much as it's not been good for his numbers and kind of his attacking play, I think playing in those teams in a big league like Serie A and having to be structured he will have gained from that, and I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think if he's asked to do a job, he'll be able to do the job and do it well.
Dave, what you want to see for this boy? You want to see him you want to see him make chances, score goals. You want to see him a bit of both of them. What kind of impact do you want to see?
I was going to say all of the above. To be fair, mate. No, I do think we need someone in there that's creative, and I think, we've all sat and slated Lawrence. That in a big part is why, because he's not the most creative. He's more of a technical player, but doesn't really create so much around him. But he has got quite a good long shot on him, which is another thing probably as a team we've lacked a bit, or should I say he's got quite a decent long shot according to the stats, kind of some of the goals that I've seen of him. We've all seen like Lundstrom blazing it over about twice the height of the bar last season. So, we've had that. People will take them. I think what we've maybe lacked is that quality of shot, and I think he can provide that. I guess a lot of it comes down to kind of what Clement's expecting from him. And I think for me, the key thing is really Dessers has been our main goal threat this season. We haven't had a huge amount of kind of chip-ins from elsewhere. So, yeah, I think we do need to look for him to score goals because someone's got to share that burden. It can't all hang on Dessers.
Aye, definitely, mate. I'd need to agree with that. I hope he likes hitting a shot outside the box because we've been crying out for that for years.
Oh, he does indeed, mate. He does indeed.
Good. Kai, see, I'm looking at accurate passes, 88% in the 2-1 game against Ukraine and 94% in a 1-0 defeat of Georgia. Seems to be a bit of disconnect in midfield at times this season between, usually it's been Diamande, Barron and Lawrence connecting play. Do you think that he's going to be able to help fill that void as well and help us in our attacking build-ups?
I definitely think he's going to help in that regard. I just don't think, I don't know what it is with Lawrence. He doesn't seem to be wherever you want him to be. He just never seems to be in that position. He's just kind of floating about. Whereas I think Bayrami's going to be really keen to get involved. Like I say, I do think him and Diamande will strike up a good partnership. I think they're two intelligent footballers that are going to link well together and going to kind of interchange because Bayrami can play that deeper position or whoever's playing out in the left as well. I think there'll be quite a good bit of interchange there, but he's going to be really keen to get involved. You can see those passing numbers are great. He always looks to get in the ball. He always shows, which I don't think we've seen from Lawrence this season. I'm not saying he's hiding or he's not looking for the ball, but it doesn't always seem to be available. I think sometimes you'll just see him like standing behind the defender instead of, he doesn't even need to make the space, just come to the ball. That's why I was saying about the second heat map showing that he's drifting out to either side to show that he can be that player that can connect it, that he's not just situated in the middle. So he'll go out, he will link the play, he'll play with the winger and the fullback, which I think is something we've not really seen. So that gives someone like Diamande the space to kind of make a run into the box behind him because the team's essentially focused on Bayrami with the winger and the fullback. I think having him and getting him in the ball is going to create a lot more space for other players, and hopefully he plays the 10. I mean, it's what we all assume he's been bought for. He's even come out today and said it's his favoured position. So I really hope the team sheet doesn't come out on Sunday or he comes off the bench and he's playing off the left.
I think if you play him off the left, it's a case of square pegs and round holes again, is it not? Do you expect to see him start on Sunday?
I really hope so, but again, Clement's obviously come out and said he's only had one training session and we'll judge it off tomorrow, which I don't. Part of me kind of gets it, but it's really frustrating as a fan because we've done it so much that we've kind of protected players to the point it's like 4 or 5 weeks before you see them start, and the players themselves probably want to play. He said he's fit, he's ready to go. He's just come off of 2 starts for Albania. He was playing in Serie B before the international break. Like he's ready. I know Clement's come out and saying about not knowing his teammates' names, and it doesn't matter in football. How many times have you turned up to, obviously not at the same level, but one of your mates will ask you to go and play for their team or go and play a game of sevens and you don't know anybody's name, and see if you're good enough. You can make things happen. And they're professional footballers. They'll be spending hours together today. It's not like a quick 5 minutes before and then he'll forget everybody's name. Like he's going to recognise faces. He'll know players from, even if he doesn't watch us, like from all over the place. So I'm worried by Clement's comments today that he's not going to start. I really hope he does.
Dave, what about you? Frying pan into fire?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm pretty much the same place as Kai. I want to see him start, and as a fan, I do get very fed up of this. You know, they need time to sink in, etc. I mean, as Kai says, football's a universal language, right? Okay, English might not be his common language. You might not know the names. The boy knows how to play football, as do all the other players around him. And that, for me, is probably more important than knowing, you know, Oscar Cortez's middle name or whatever the issue is here. I don't think he'll start. I think from what Clement said, it would surprise me if he does, and especially given the history previously. I think Doug's bang on. If he's not going to start, I think most fans, including myself, will be desperate to see him get some minutes off the bench. Just on position for he has played left wing. We highlighted in one of those slides the Ukraine game. He started on the left wing and he is quite accomplished there. So that is another option. Obviously, Kai and I were talking just yesterday about potentially Agamani starting there, and I'm sure Kai wants to see him get minutes so his 10-goal prediction can come true. But again, it is another option. So I think potentially he could get minutes in either role, either on the left wing or as a 10. But I don't think he'll start.
I think for a fee we've apparently paid, was it 3.5 million? I think you need to play him. It's as easy as that. You can't have.
Yeah.
I mean, is he the Diamonde will be Davis signing in the summer, but he is up there, you know what I mean? So you need to kind of put him in and see what he can do. We need it. We need a spark just now. Anyway, we'll quickly go through VACLAV CERNY and Mohamed Diamande. Dave, I'm going to stay with you on CERNY. Obviously, he had one appearance against Ukraine. He got an assist. What's your kind of take overall on this player? Have you been impressed with his start of life at Rangers?
Yeah, I have been. I think, obviously, there was a bit of criticism after the Celtic game. I think you can read too much into that. I mean, the whole team was guff, let's be honest. And I think the other thing that people need to bear in mind is, as a winger, he will, you know, be a bit hot and cold. Some games will be better than others. I think the really key thing for me with Czerny is when he has his moments, they're absolute class. You know, you can just see it with the couple of passes he's picked from, you know, almost the halfway line. He split defenses a couple of times. I think one of them we got onto, the other, if we'd had a bit more of an intelligent run, we'd have got onto that as well. So, yeah, I'm quite happy with how he's settled in. I think over a season we'll absolutely get a benefit from him there. And let's be honest, we all want to support the academy guys, but he's absolutely an upgrade on McCausland.
Oh, 100%. Are you concerned with how left-footed he is, though? Might sound like a bit of a daft question, but...
Yeah, I do wonder if, you know, we probably do need to see a wee bit more variance in his play. I don't think it's so much the fact that he's extremely left-footed, although obviously that is pretty apparent. But it's the fact that he's always looking to do the same thing. He's always looking to get up to about the 18-yard line or just after and cut in. And I suppose there is a bit of a concern that, if defenders suss that out well enough, they can probably counteract that. So I would like to see him mix it up a little bit more. But again, I think he's probably got the quality to do that if he's coached right.
That's fair. That's fair. Kai, what's your thoughts on Czerny?
I think, like you say, mate, the left being too left-footed thing is a bit of a concern. But again, as Dave highlighted, when he has those moments of magic, they are moments of magic. I know that obviously there was not so much a comparison in terms of ability, but he plays like Robin. Like, you know what he's going to do, but it doesn't always mean you can stop it. And he needs to have a few of those moments a game where like they can't stop him, because that's what we need from him. We need them to create, need them to get goals. But I do think when we had Michael on, the Eredivisie expert spoke about when he said he links really well with fullbacks, and he thought he would link really well with Tav, but that was obviously before we seen Tav's kind of physical decline, and I think that's maybe making him a bit more obvious, because Tav's not always on those overlapping runs, which maybe not even last season, like 2-3 years ago, he always would have been bombing beyond, and I think that could have been a good partnership then. I think now it's a bit tough for Czerny, because he's essentially been given the ball and then been asked to do something with it, because he's not got those overlapping runs. He can take the ball back, Tav will whip in a deep cross, but he's not always giving him that option to drive inside the pitch and then cut the ball back out for that run. So I think that's a bit of an issue there that makes it more obvious for him. So hopefully, I really hope the break's done Tav some good, because he's obviously staying. So hopefully that break and getting a bit more fitness maybe brings a bit more of that athleticism back, because I think him being at the level he was, at least athletically, a couple of years ago, would really help Czerny and stop his gameplay being so obvious, essentially.
I know. It's Kai, do you think it's the way teams playing? Or no, I'm not sitting here picking holes in Václav Cerny, but do you think there's any way that we can get the best out of him better via the style of play that the team's got?
I think the team's set up with, obviously, knows a football manager player, like essentially we're playing with what you'd call inside forwards or inverted wingers. So you're playing with players that are always going to cut inside, but for that to work, you need the fullback to be bombing on as well to give that extra option. Otherwise, it's Czerny running into a lot of defenders and having to play it kind of tight in the middle, or like coming in trying to get a shot away. So you need that fullback overlapping with the way it's set out. Maybe putting him on the left hand side might be better. Just getting him to take the man on instead of always cutting inside. Then that's maybe something we could look at. Just be a bit more direct in the wing, like be proper old school, like what we used to do with Candeas. Just get the ball. If Tav's not running past you, run past him yourself and get the ball in. I think maybe changing it up, something like that during games might help, but I do think there's an issue with the wingers always coming inside. If it's obviously different on the left hand side, and that's why we've seen Matondo and Hefty working so well, because Matondo will always come inside. Hefty was always wide bombing down the line with that energy and pace, whereas we've not had that on the right. So I think that's tough on Czerny, but he does need to adapt to that. You can't just rely on that being the only thing to vary your game. You need to offer something a bit different. But I do think they could maybe swap the wingers about at parts in the game and just have them take the fullbacks on.
Dave, what you want to see for Czerny? You wanting, are you expecting goals from him? You expecting assists? What do you think the strength is to his game?
So, sorry,
Dave, go.
No, I'm sorry. I thought that one was for me. On you go, Kai.
It was, right.
Oh, it was. Right. Okay. I don't feel so bad now. I'd like to see him contribute goals. I think, again, as I said earlier, it's important that we start sharing the load out. Historically, I mean, even last season, it was pretty much Tavernier and Dessers and Sinma when he was fit. So I think he does need to chip in with some. I think probably his strength will be more creating for. Again, we've spoken about those kind of passes, those moments of magic. And I think if he can be doing that, feeding into the striker, the 10, then, you know, that's potentially a real winner for us.
Aye, definitely. I just hope that he's going to keep that right wing, make that right wing position his own, and it's something it's going to calm the noise down on that position, because it's been a noisy position within the support since Daniel Candais. There we go. I said Daniel Candais. We've not had a decent enough right winger since him. Guy, I'm going to come on to Mohamed Diamandi. There was a pod last night on Cyril Desser's been an enigma. Now, this guy seems to, I know he splits opinion in our chat. I know Ross isn't a big kind of fan of him. But you could look at it in kind of two situations where you don't see Diamandi doing much, but then you see him trying to do stuff, and the players around him don't seem to be in his wavelength. What one is it, Will?
I think it's tough, mate. I think, see, if you had, I remember they used to do the thing for Premier League games. Sometimes you had the player cam. You could have the camera focus on one player. I think, see, if you could do that for a game for Diamandi, I think the opinion of him would be slightly different. Maybe not fully convince people, but you do see him all the time, kind of pointing to where he wants players to be, and then he has to turn back, or that's when he holds on to the ball for too long. Like I say, I think with Bayrami coming in, I think you maybe see it a bit with players like Czerny as well. Players that have a genuine footballing brain, which, like, no offence to the players that have been here before, but we don't have a lot of players that are that step ahead. They're just kind of in the moment and what's happening right now and not thinking ahead. Whereas I feel like Diamandi gets on the ball and he's always thinking, like, what next instead of what now. I think that's where the frustration comes, and you always see him, or a lot of the time you see him passing the ball back and like throwing his hands up in there just in frustration that nobody's kind of made that space, because he can make those difficult passes through, like, splitting the midfield and defence and getting players running forward, but there's just not always that option. But I think until he takes games like the game against Celtic by the scruff of the neck and drags the team forward and contributes like a goal and assist and kind of gets us a victory there, I don't think that opinion is going to change from a lot of fans.
And Dave, what about you? Same question. What's your thoughts on Diamandi? Invisible man or level above?
Bit both. I think, you know, Kai's covered off the kind of players being on the same wavelength side of it. I think just, you know, one example of that, so we look at Tom Lawrence, who's pretty static, let's be honest. And if you swap out like a Bayrami, and we've already spoken about his ability to find space and take the ball, then, you know, instantly you potentially see an improvement there. But I think the other thing that stands out for me, and quite a few of the times I've seen Diamandi, is he's quite often getting two or more opposition players on him. It's almost like the opposition have kind of twigged to the fact he might do something and, you know, purposely gone out to mark him. Now, if you've got, and I mean, I get this appears I'm totally ragging on Tom Lawrence here, and I suppose to an extent I am, but if you've got someone like Lawrence, you know he's not really going to tear away from you. You know that you can quite easily kind of mark him at the minute. Someone like a Bayrami is a bit more unknown, a bit more fluid, a bit more movement to them. Suddenly the question is, can you put two players on deal, or do you need to take one of those players and start marking Bayrami? And that might free him up a bit as well. That said, I do agree with Kai. I think ultimately, you know, he might be good, he might not. We're not really seeing it yet. But part of that is on the player, just to take it by the scruff of the neck, drag the team forward. And I think for me, the one kind of criticism I've got of him is, for a supposedly attacking player, apart from those couple of goals in the first, I think it was his first 3 games, he got 2 goals, wasn't it? We've not seen nearly enough attacking intent from him. Now, I guess part of that might be the position he's playing. I said it on another pod, and I still maintain we're asking him and Barron to an extent to play almost as a 6 and an 8. And I think if you got a bit more definition in there, but I don't see that changing anytime soon. We've put in Bayrami at the 10. That's great. But you're still going to have Baron and him playing in that kind of dual role in the middle. So either they need to develop a better understanding, one goes, one sits, or, I think we'll potentially see more of the same. So I guess that's a really long-winded way of saying I do like him, but I don't think he's done enough yet.
I do think we need him to impact games more, if I'm being honest. I think he needs to step up in that sense a wee bit and take a wee bit more leadership and responsibility in a Midley Park. And Midley Park's there for him to own it, and he just needs to do it, as far as I'm concerned. Nextly, before we come on to our last one, we'll just quickly touch upon Ross McCausland. Never got many minutes. I think that's a total of half an hour in 2 matches he got for Northern Ireland. Guy, it's just a case of more match minutes and experience for McCausland, isn't it?
Essentially, mate. I do think there's a chance he can kind of cement that starting position for Northern Ireland down the line. But I think he needs to play more for Rangers first, which probably isn't what a lot of fans want. I just think my only concern with McCausland is when he first came on to the scene and into the team, he seemed a lot more keen to take players on and try and do something with the ball. Whereas now he seems really passive and as if he's worried about losing it and kind of getting criticism. He's not playing with that freedom that he did when he came in, and that's probably my biggest criticism of him, because he's, as much as people say he's young, he's 21, like fully grown adult at that age. So I think he needs to show more when he's on the park, just be a bit more brave in possession, because he was when he first came into the team. I think he's kind of lost that wee bit. He needs to get that back if he's wanting to try and push a player like Czerny to get more minutes for us.
Dave, see in terms of squad role for Ross McCausland, he came on, was it against Kiev? He came on away and kind of he cut inside and he had a good shot that he keeper tipped on the post, etc., etc. It might have hit a bar. I think that's what we're needing to see more. Do you think a substitute role might benefit him more, coming on and facing a tired fullback so that he can have more of an impact? Or do you think that we should kind of keep trying to do what we're currently doing with him?
No, I think a sub role's bang on. I think there's actually a kind of wider question that actually, a lot of these academy guys potentially should be filling the slots that maybe likes of a Dowell is filling at the minute, probably on a lot higher wages than these academy guys. So I think from the club's perspective, it makes sense to do that, but also for his development, he's getting opportunities, not starting in most games, but he is getting those minutes. And again, a bit like just what we've said with Diamande there, it's on him to grab us as fans and make us think, shit, this guy's a talent. He needs to give us something to cheer. I think it's easy to say, the fans need to get behind players, and we do, right? I'm not saying we don't, but equally the players have to give something back. I think he's probably had a couple of sub appearances now. So there was that one, and obviously had that shot against Kiev, and I think was it the Ross County game when he came on and chipped the keeper right at the end. So he has maybe this season taken advantage of that a bit more. But as Kai says, he wasn't doing that nearly enough last season. And I think now, if he can keep doing that, then yeah, potentially gets a chance to start games here and there. But it's all on him, to be honest, mate.
Pretty much. I need to agree. It is all on him. He's got an opportunity. He needs to go and take it. Right. The last man that's still coming up in press conference of the day, IANIS HAGI. We've done a full pod dedicated to this guy on Tuesday, so I don't want to go over old ground. So on against, was it Lithuania, he come on and won a penalty? I think it was. He come on the last 10 minutes or something like that. Last 20 minutes, come on and won a penalty. We all know what a guy can offer. Kai, how much of an asset have we got? Can we revive this guy and sell him, or do you think it's curtains for him?
I think he's still shown, obviously, the ability level that he's got. It's just, I think the interesting thing about the press conference today was Clement came out and said, I think this is the first time he said that it's not just his decision. I think we all just assumed it was, but he said multiple times that he doesn't fancy him, he doesn't think he's a Rangers number 10, but now he's saying it's not only his decision, which is really interesting. We know all the rumours about the wage rise, potential fee for Genk. He's a good footballer, mate. See, at the end of the day, I'd have him in over Tom Lawrence. It's just you need to work something out because you can't have him sitting until January on like 25 grand a week. We spoke about how hard they've worked to get the wage bill down. A lot of the signings are coming in half the wages of the replacement, but it doesn't all go out the window. But a lot of that goes out the window if you're having someone sitting in 25 grand a week not doing anything. I think if there's no contract termination, if there's no clubs, I think Turkey's window shuts. I don't know if it was today or if it's next Wednesday. I think it's next Wednesday actually it closes. If there's no offers there and they can't terminate his contract, might just need to bite the bullet and use him, because if he comes onto a game like he's done well for Romania, he gets a few goals, few assists here and there, you're still going to be able to sell him. He's still that kind of big profile presence, celebrity status that he's got in Romania. Like, he's a massive name and he is a good footballer, but we need to work something out.
Yep, I would like to see some clarity on his future pretty soon, to be honest with you, because I think this situation is just going to drag on and on. I would like somebody to come out and say that this is a plan, because I think there's stuff going on at a club that we don't know about in terms of circumstances surrounding IANIS Hagi. Dave, where are you at on him?
Honestly, mate, bored of hearing about him. I agree with everything that Kai said, right? I do think, personally, I would rather see him in the team ahead of Lawrence. I think he has got talent, although obviously his kind of physical side of his game's up for debate. I do think it would be incredibly wasteful for him to sit in the B team for half a season. But I think Clement said all summer long, the guy isn't going to be playing for us. He's not going to be our number 10. We're now hearing that, there's other input into that, so it's not just the manager. I actually think, I don't think we'll get a resolution to this now. I do think that we're going to have 25 grand sat in that B team, purely because it's all been played out so publicly that I think if the club were to bring him back in after everything that's been said by, the club, his agent, himself, I think it would be a huge, huge climb down, and I'm not convinced that the club would do that. So, yeah, there's a lot to discuss there, and the guys did a really good job on that pod on Tuesday, kind of going through it all, but I just don't see a way back for this guy now. I think it's gone too far, if I'm being honest.
I mean, he is making all the right noises, but you could look at it as in he's trying to get supporters on side, and he genuinely like.
I think he's playing a good PR game, man.
That's
very different comments to what he was saying in the summer at the start. And I think, Kai, I'm sure it was you I seen putting this in the group chat, but I just wonder how much of it is his agents kind of said that, I'll get you this fantastic move somewhere, great club, decent league, etc. And then the reality's hit that actually nobody is terribly keen on signing him on the wages that he would want other than teams in his home country.
Aye. I think his agent actually came out at the start of summer and says he would buy him out his contract or something, did they not?
Nah, I signed off like that, yeah.
So, if he's still here, then his agent's obviously full of the brown stuff. But it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds in the next couple of months. I do think there's a player here that the manager could utilise, whether he's going to or not is going to be interesting to see. But like I said, if anybody wants to hear more about IANIS Hagi, we've done a pod about it on Tuesday night. Monday night we've done a pod on James Tavernier. Tuesday night we've done Hagi. Wednesday night we've done a Q&A, which was good. Last night was on Cyril Dessers, and the night with this wee roundup of the international scene. So, Dave, thanks for joining us, mate.
No, pleasure as always. It's good to talk through before we get back to the real stuff.
I think that's probably the best way to deal with international football. It's just profile of players that have played and see if they've had any impact. It makes it less boring. Kai, thanks for coming on, mate.
Pleasure, mate. Thanks for having me. Like I say, it's good to that's over. We can not talk about international football for I think it's only 4 weeks until the next breaks, but at least it's over for now.
Aye.
real stuff on Sunday.
That's it. I thought the Europa League started next week, but it's not. It's got a week till the cup game, and then the Europa League's the following week.
It's the 2 Dundees and then Malmo, isn't it?
Aye.
I think.
2 Dundees and then Malmo, aye. But anyway, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock with Tomo and the lads. We'll be previewing Dundee United. And then we'll have a post-match reaction on Sunday to the Dundee United game. And then you'll probably see myself back at some point next week. Apart from that, again, thanks for tuning in. Remember, every night is Rangers Journal night. Cheers.